In this video, I'm going to be talking about how I thought my DPF was plugged and I needed a new one, and it turned out to actually just be a sensor that cost $150. When I started getting the symptoms of potentially having a bad DPF, I was terrified because obviously you can go ahead and do a delete, but I didn't really want to because of the nature of this channel, and I had a lot of folks telling me, yeah, you either need to replace it or you're gonna have to take it somewhere to get it baked. And the symptom that caused me to think I needed a new DPF was actually the fact that I had operator commanded regen turned on, and I could see that the truck was going into regen cycles every 100 miles. And it didn't matter where I was, but it would just, like, the DPF would just fill up so fast. And I posted a short about it, and a bunch of folks were like, yeah, you need a new DPF, you need a new DPF. But I dug into some forums and found out that there's actually a sensor, which makes a lot of sense because the whole DPF is just covered in sensors, but there's a sensor that measures the pressure differential across the DPF. And when it fills up with soot, it tells it to regen because it will essentially figure out and sense when there's enough soot plugging the veins that it needs to regen to clear that flow. And so what I thought was, all right, typically if you have a plugged DPF, you have a lot of back pressure, so your engine runs like shit. You are getting a lot of hazing or sooting out the back of your tailpipe, and the engine's just running poorly. And I didn't have any of those symptoms. The only symptom I had was that I was watching the percentage go up super fast, and then the truck would go into regen, and it just didn't add up. And so I was like, all right, well, the only other thing it could be is that the computer is getting a poor reading from the sensor, which is then recommending that it completes a regen even though it doesn't need it. And so that was what it ended up being. I didn't need a new DPF. I needed a $150 sensor. I went to see PTT with A-Rod, and A-Rod basically took, it had to be like 30 minutes to swap out the sensor. It's a quick repair. It's not expensive to do. So I'm making this video because if you are having issues with your truck regenning constantly, before you do anything, I would make sure that it isn't just the pressure sensor, because these sensors do go bad. And if you have a truck that has over 100,000 miles, or maybe even you're under 100,000 miles, and the truck is old, you should just replace that pressure differential sensor before doing anything else. Because even doing a delete, right? Like a $150 pressure sensor, like that's such an easy fix, and it's way less involved, and you don't have to get rid of the DPF. And so yeah, I just wanted to make a video like explaining that, and I'll show you where the pressure sensor is, but it's not an expensive part. It's a quick fix, and it literally is just like the truck regenning a bunch isn't caused by the DPF failing prematurely. It's only caused by the PCM getting a incorrect reading from the sensor. All right, we're gonna take a little trip underneath the truck and look at the DPF. So you're looking at the back axle there. See this little rubber hose right here? That is the pressure sensor for the DPF. And that is what, you'll see it kind of plugs in at the back of the DPF there. That is what is taking the reading and telling the computer when to regen. Because in the middle part of the DPF right here, when soot builds up, it's gonna restrict the flow and the pressure is gonna drop behind the DPF. And so that is what you wanna replace. But it doesn't involve welding a new bung on. You don't need any special tools. It's literally just a little spring clip right there. And then it's a bolt up on the top, and then you're just plugging it in. You could do this probably in 30 minutes at home. So if you think your DPF has failed, check this first. Just please check this first, because I was losing my shit. I thought, this is it. It's done. I got to spend $8 grand on a new DPF. And honestly, I feel like a lot of people have, because when I look in the forums, people say that when they had this and they had the regen frequency code, which should be the sensor right here. It's a P2459, that the dealer just was like, oh, your DPF's bad, and replaced the whole thing if it was under warranty. Like, that is absurd. Replacing an entire DPF because a $150 sensor went wrong. Like, and again, I don't think it's any consumer's fault. It's just Ford hasn't empowered their dealers to understand how these work and, you know, be able to actually fix them and diagnose them correctly for their customers, which is just, I mean, it's unbelievable. The whole emissions thing is just such a racket, but I mean, here we are. All right, so if you're getting either a P2459 code, or it seems like your truck is regenning too often, replace the sensor before you do anything else, or take it to your dealer and tell them to check the sensor, because chances are it's bad and chances are it's sending the PCM an inadequate reading. I hope this video was helpful. If you're new here, please check out some of my other content. I'm keeping this Powerstroke until the engine fails, and we're gonna see how much it takes to keep it running. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time here on Powerstroke Maintenance. Cheers.